Have you ever been a tenant and faced with a situation where the landlord locks you out for coming home late, or takes off a part of your roof for failing to pay your rent? Have you been a landlord and your tenant fails to pay his rent or pay water or electricity bills? Or as a landlord, have you ever experienced where your tenant will sublet a part of your property without your consent, or refuse to pay his rent or for light or for water? Welcome to this edition of Amebo Barrister, where together we'll x-ray the tenancy relationship, looking at the duties, rights and responsibilities of the parties in this contractual arrangement. Let's look at the duties of the parties. We'll start with the duties of the landlord. For the landlord, we'll look at 5 basic duties. Number 1, he must provide the property for the tenancy. Number 2, he must deliver the possession of the property to the tenant. He must hand it over to the tenant to use and occupy. Number 3, the landlord must provide the property in a tenantable condition, in a condition that makes the tenancy fit for purpose and use by the tenant. Number 4, the landlord must provide basic amenities as agreed upon in the tenancy agreement. Okay. Number 5, the landlord must meet all financial obligations to the state, like payment of tenement rates and relevant taxes. Now let's look at the duties of the tenant. Number 1, duty to pay rent. The tenant must pay rent to the landlord when and where due. Number 2, he must maintain the property in a tenantable condition. Now what does this mean? He must make sure the property at all times is in good condition, fair wear and tear expected, no doubt. Number 3 is that he must pay for deliveries to the property or the premises, such as light, water, gas, telephone, whatever it is that comes into the premises for his own use and benefit. The tenant must pay for these things. Number 4, the tenant must not and cannot sublet the property to any other person without the consent of the landlord. And then number 5, the tenant must allow the landlord or his representative access to the property when he comes around for periodic inspection, as that's a right of the landlord to do so where and when necessary. Okay, so we are done with the duties. Let's now look at the rights of the parties. Let's start with the landlord. The landlord has 4 basic rights. Number 1 right of the landlord is the right to fix rent. He has the right to fix and determine his rent howsoever, whatsoever price he chooses to fix it. Number 2, he has the right to demand and collect rent from the tenant when due. Number 3, he has the right to recover possession from a tenant who is not paying rent or is not willing to continue the tenancy arrangement. Then number 4, he has the right to enter into the premises for periodic inspection as agreed upon in the tenancy arrangement. Okay. On the other hand, let's look at the right of the tenant. And like the landlord, the tenant also enjoys some rights on the property. Let's look at 3 of them. Number 1, right to exclusive possession. He has the right to possess the property free from any other conflicting interest or intervention. He holds the property completely to himself. Number 2, right to quiet enjoyment. What does this mean? He has the right to enjoy the property however he wishes to enjoy without interference from the landlord or any other person representing the landlord. Even the neighbors are not allowed to interfere or disturb his quiet enjoyment. Number 3, he has the right to adequate notice on any matter that touches on the property, whether it's with regards to extermination of the tenancy or expiration of the rent or even periodic inspection. He has the right to adequate notice for all of this. Now let's look at what parties should not do in a tenancy relationship. Now let's look at the landlord. What the landlord should not do. Number 1, the landlord should not deny the tenant exclusive possession. Having let out the house to the tenant, he cannot tell the tenant, please leave one room for my son or leave your backyard for my daughter to come and pound here. No, that is not done in a tenancy. Number 2, he cannot deny the tenant from enjoying quiet enjoyment of the property. Okay, the tenant must be able to enjoy the property quietly and peacefully, however and whichever means he finds fit. Okay, number 3, the landlord cannot seek to throw the tenant out of the property without going through lawful means. Okay, he cannot wake up one morning and say, oh tenant, you have not paid my rent, and takes off a part of the roof or locks out the tenant or changes or cuts off his power supply or even water for failure to pay rent. That is not done and it is wrong. Some of the things the tenant cannot do on the premises. Number 1, he cannot refuse to pay rent. When the rent is due, he must pay his rent to his landlord. Number 2, he cannot refuse to hand over the premises at the expiration of the tenancy. When the rent is expired, when the rent is due and he doesn't want to continue, the tenancy has expired, he must hand over the premises to the landlord and go away peacefully. Number 3, he cannot deny the landlord access to the premises, especially for purposes of inspection. Number 4, he cannot damage and should not damage the property or a part of it. If it happens that he damages, he has a duty to fix. And then number 5, the tenant cannot and should not sublet the property or a part of it to anybody else without the consent of the landlord. are some of the things the tenant should not and cannot do on the premises. There's a whole lot more you can know and learn about the duties and responsibilities of a tenant and a landlord in a tenancy arrangement, but we'll limit ourselves to just these few for now. For more information, be sure to reach out to your lawyer.